Once a promising student, Ruben "Doc" Cavazos rose to become the president of a notorious gang, only to be undone by his own greed. He was caught up in a racketeering conspiracy, facing a range of severe charges, from murder and drug trafficking to violent crimes within his gang. So, how did Cavazos let the power go to his head? Was he just pretending to be tough? It's funny because he hardly ever rode a motorcycle. Maybe he was scared. Today we'll uncover many truths about the most dirty Mongols president. Born in Chicago on December 28, 1956 at Cook County Hospital, Ruben "Doc" Cavazos grew up with his father, Alvaro, who came to the U.S. from Mexico for work, while his mother, Linda, a restless spirit of German and Irish descent, left the family when Cavazos was just 2 years old. The tragedy began. In her absence, Alvaro, his father, packed up and moved west with his sons, taking on various field labor jobs before finally settling in the gang-riddled streets of northeast Los Angeles. Little did he know, this environment would shape his son, Ruben Cavazos, into one of the most feared gang leaders in California. Young Ruben became violent, starting from his earliest days at La Russo Elementary School. The tough streets toughened him up. He was part of a street gang and constantly found himself in fights, quickly earning a reputation that attracted the local Mexican street gang, the Avenues, like sharks to blood. When Ruben, at only 12 years old, refused to join the Avenues gang, they brutally attacked him during what was supposed to be an initiation, forcefully bringing him into their ranks. Ruben became a member of the Avenues gang, and it felt like the right fit for him. The gang provided him with a sense of family. They accepted him and didn't judge his violent tendencies. However, this phase didn't last long. His family noticed he was heading down a dangerous path and intervened. They hoped he would lead a normal life, finish school, get a job, marry, have kids, save for retirement, and live peacefully. But Ruben was far from ordinary. Despite his involvement with the Roof Avenues gang, he showed a real talent for academics and had big ambitions. Yet, his teenage years were marred by run-ins with the law, including charges of armed robbery. Ruben worked hard and made it to the University of Texas, where he trained and became a licensed radiologic technologist. Working in hospitals in Los Angeles gave him a stable middle-class life. He bought a home in the Pico neighborhood, had a son, and married a beautiful wife. Despite this seemingly settled life, Ruben's roots in the tough world of the Avenues gang remained deep, and his desire for respect and fear drew him to the Mongols motorcycle club. There, he even placed ATF employees in key decision-making positions within the club. He left his work and started a new adventure. After joining the Mongols club in the 70s, Ruben dedicated his life to the club, aiming for the top from the very start. From that moment on, he wasn't just Ruben, he was Ruben "Doc" Cavazos, a member of the Mongols. Despite not being much of a biker, Doc Cavazos quickly climbed the ranks within the Mongols. Many wondered how he, an apparent outsider, could rise so quickly. It was because Doc was a strategist. He ascended rapidly due to his skills in recruiting new members for the club. When he joined the club, Ruben "Doc" Cavazos observed that many members were demotivated, especially as they faced pressure from the Hells Angels and lacked the numbers to effectively respond. Doc seized this opportunity to boost his own power by recruiting new members aggressively, focusing more on quantity than quality. His main goal was to gather loyal followers to strengthen his position. By adding as many as 200 new members, he increased the club's size, enabling him to overpower the existing leadership and crown himself as the leader. He carefully planned his moves, recruiting former members of the Mexican mafia and other interested gang members. This upset the mafia, but the Mongols still grew quickly by absorbing many Hispanic street gangs. These new recruits saw Doc as their leader and were fiercely loyal to him. With this strong following, the club became a powerful force. However, they faced a major challenge when they clashed with their toughest rivals, the Hells Angels. The showdown between the Mongols and the Hells Angels took place at an event organized by the Hells Angels, lasting 5 days. Bikers from across the country converged on Nevada's hotspots, including members of the Mongols. Given the history of territorial disputes between the two gangs, tensions were naturally high at the start of the event. Roger Penny, the president of the Mongols, initially tried to broker peace between the Hells Angels and the Mongols, aiming to ensure both motorcycle gangs could enjoy the festival without conflict. However, the peace was short. Another Hell's Angel, Ray Folks, arrived at the gathering with a combative attitude and kicked a Mongol member in the chest, triggering a melee weapon. What began as a normal gathering rapidly escalated into chaos and violence. The incident, which occurred inside the casino in Laughlin, Nevada, turned devastating when shooting and fighting broke out. This incident, which happened 2 years ago, resulted in the death of 1 Mongol and 2 Hell's Angels, with 9 others injured.
This celebrated casino battle in Laughlin, Nevada 2.5 years ago. 1 Mongol and 2 rival Hell's Angels were shot or stabbed to death.
In total, 3 were killed and 13 ended up in the hospital, including the Mongols' president, Roger Penny, who was severely injured in a near-fatal attack. Doc Cavazos was initially at the forefront, acting as a leader during the chaos. However, it is believed that in a moment of cowardice, Ruben left Roger Penny injured on the ground and fled to safety when the situation escalated. As Penny's right-hand man, Ruben was expected to protect him, but instead, he ran away when Penny was shot. Penny was eventually taken to the hospital, but in his absence, the Mongols were left without a leader. When Penny fought for his life, Doc saw an opportunity to seize control without opposition. He was hungry for power and desired absolute authority. Doc didn't shy away from violence and was willing to take on the Hell's Angels head-on. Thus, his tenure as the Mongols' president commenced just as you'd anticipate. It's important to note that crossing the Mexican mafia often resulted in death, a fate that Doc risked by recruiting from the pool of former gang members and dropouts. As president of the Mongols, Doc started a relentless recruitment drive, welcoming new members with open arms. However, his aggressive approach eventually drew the ire of the Mexican mafia, who felt he had pushed things too far. Doc's constant recruitment from the mafia's ranks further angered this already powerful crime syndicate. Instead of trying to control drug trafficking and certain territories independently, Doc aimed to use the Mexican mafia for these purposes. This decision led the mafia to demand a share of the profits. The mafia wanted a big share of the profits and ongoing drug taxes from the Mongols, who had teamed up with them. When Cavazos said no, it caused a big problem. Now, the Mongols were in trouble, facing both the Hell's Angels and the mafia. Cavazos cared more about his own goals than being a good leader or club member. Things got worse when some Mongols messed with a drug operation run by the mafia's Basset Grande group. What took place was similar to an old-school mafia film, with a lethal cycle of revenge and counterattacks playing out. The area was rocked by a hail of automatic weapon fire, and it was only the beginning. As the losses mounted, Cavazos staged a brutal power play, leveraging the rising bloodshed to tighten his own hold on power and collect fortune. His actions were daring and provocative, suggesting a lethal Game of Thrones played out on the streets. He craved attention and continued to steal money from his club, angering the long-standing members even more. By 2008, he had siphoned over $250,000 from the club's funds for his own gain. The Mongol elders had had enough of his treason and arrogance. They overwhelmingly agreed to kick him out of the club at a meeting in Vernon, California, on August 30th, 2008. This was a crushing blow, but it wasn't the end of the line. Infiltrating the Mongols' motorcycle club had been simple because the club was actively seeking new members. Now, left alone and shunned by his former brothers, with the Mexican mafia putting a price on his head, Cavazos' reign came crashing down dramatically. However, federal authorities were already taking action to dismantle the Mongols. Cavazos, in his relentless pursuit of power, had recruited numerous undercover cops, integrated them into the club, and even placed them in positions of authority. His greatest blunder was bringing in a group of ATF agents and making them full members of the Mongols. These agents held key positions, had connections with criminals, and were privy to all the club's activities. Bill Queen, an undercover agent, spent an impressive 2 years and 2 months as a full-fledged member, the longest duration for an undercover agent. How this happened remained a mystery, but it was clear that Cavazos' thirst for power drove him to enlist their help. Unforeseen to him, these agents were also accumulating evidence for one of the biggest drug busts in history, which ultimately took place in 2008. Operation Black Rain targeted the Mongols motorcycle club, resulting in their conviction for racketeering and conspiracy in 2018. This operation was a long-term undercover sting operation spanning several years, which infiltrated the Mongols' ranks. In October 2008, it led to a widespread crackdown across 6 states. Almost 700 federal agents descended with tanks and helicopters, arresting 61 Mongols on a massive 162-count indictment. The charges included racketeering, murder, drug trafficking, and weapons offenses. Among those arrested was Cavazos himself, who had recently been ousted from the club. SWAT teams stormed his lavish mansion in West Covina. In a shocking turn of events, the Mongol warlord decided to become an informant, immediately cooperating with prosecutors in hopes of securing his freedom. Although his 14-year sentence seemed less compared to the possibility of life imprisonment within the outlaw ranks, it was still a significant consequence. Once seen as a potential leader of a powerful criminal empire, he ended up facing twin consequences: a federal prison term and eternal retribution from the Mexican mafia. What are your thoughts on Doc Cavazos' rise and fall? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this one.